Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
We are so blessed. I'm grateful for that choice of song. Keith brings us great music. The bridge over troubled water. Any of you having troubled water? Some troubled water in your life going on? Okay, some murky stuff, some rough waves. And I love the image that Jen chose of the bridge. They were not a little footbridge, a big, strong, sturdy bridge. And that's how I think of spirit. And when I go into prayer and I get weary and small, like the lyrics in the song. And did you get weary and small at all this week? Did you let yourself get a little weary and small about some stuff going on in your life? I did. I'm working on this big paper, and it's for the spiritual direction class that I'm in, and it's your spiritual autobiography, and I'm journaling about my life, journaling, pages, thick pages and pages of journaling. So you got into some old stuff, right? Tapped into some old pain, and getting into that small, pity me, sad consciousness, And the thing that got me out of it is opening up into the spirit of prayer, that bridge over troubled water, remembering that strength, that's solid, unmoving, unmovable, always present spirit, always there. So I'm talking about the spirit of prayer today. The student of a Zen master went up to the Zen master and said, "How do you maintain such serenity in the face of all the pressures in your life?" And he said, "I never leave my place of meditation." And so this doesn't mean he just sat on his cushion all day, because he's running a monastery, okay? The Zen master had a monastery to run. He had some business to attend to, things coming up. That he maintained that consciousness that he experienced when he is sitting on his meditation cushion, bringing that to all experience of life. So that's what we do. In Unity, we get into the spirit of prayer, we bring that to whatever aspects, things we're going through in life. So we can take an emotional binge, now and then, fall off the wagon, and then we can choose to get back on there when enough, sometimes it's when enough is enough. And it's like, okay, I'm ready to let that go and open up to a bigger, larger aspect and awareness of myself. So we're in the Adventures in Faith series. We're into the chapter on prayer, Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You. And in that chapter, he quotes Jesus from the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 24. Jesus said, "God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." And Eric Butterworth tells us that Jesus wasn't trying to give us a definition, like the revealing word, God is spirit, okay, saying God is spirit, and when you worship God, when you come into communion and awareness of your oneness of God, you need to come in to spirit and awareness of truth. There are three aspects of our experience of who we are: mind, body, spirit, right? So we can let ourselves get caught up in the mind. We can stay up in the mind, in the thinking, try to solve it at the level of thinking, work it out. And sometimes we get solutions. We can get solutions and work things out. We can be in the body. I know when I'm in the body, when my body's running the show, I'm like, I'm hungry, and all I'm thinking about is lunch. Lunch. My mind's in the body, or I want to take a nap or whatever, and the body's kind of running the show. And so what the Zen master is teaching us is come into spirit first, that awareness of the fullness of who you are, and let that inform the body, the mind, and recognize there is a greater fulfillment in all aspects of your life when you're coming from that awareness, praying and experiencing. Expand your thought of God into a deeper insight into yourself, Eric Butterworth says. He said that Jesus is saying here, your prayer is to lift your consciousness to a point where you may be impressed by Spirit. So coming into a spiritual awareness, allowing yourself to listen spiritually, be open to what is happening in Spirit. So not all prayer lifts our consciousness, right? There are a lot of different forms of prayer that we can engage in. He talks about in the chapter of those who pray publicly out in the streets. They profess their prayers, their rote prayers, or different rituals and things that we can engage in, and we can go through the motions, and it can be uplifting and it can be positive. It simplifies it, is what Eric tells us. Simplifies prayer. It can give us, but it gives us a sense of frustration because there's not a real sense of communion in this practice of kind of going through the motions or trying to publicly show or demonstrate a certain thing. He says a prayer that doesn't lift your consciousness, when we go to God with our begging bowl, you know, like the monks who go out on the street and ask for food. And I think about, in Houston, we're real familiar with panhandlers, right? We've got a wealth of them here, so to speak. And some of the times they have a sign that says, anything helps. Anything. You ever pray like that? God, anything. Anything different, anything else, anything helps, please, something. Change this, make a difference. And so, yeah, we can pray that way. And Eric Butterworth is telling us that's not the way Jesus was teaching us to pray. That there is a more expansive way of approaching prayer. And why these prayers don't work ultimately is that it's not fulfilling. It's that concept of healing versus a cure. You know, you can get the flu and you take a Z-Pack and you don't have the flu anymore, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get the flu again at some other time, or maybe you have a tumor removed and you might have the tumor removed, but you might still have the consciousness that brings another tumor. So the difference is that you can have a physical cure where the symptoms are contained or shifted, but the consciousness hasn't shifted. When the consciousness shifts, that's when you have the healing. And that's what we're talking about with prayer here, is going to Spirit, opening up to the realization of the truth that shifts your consciousness and then shifts your physical experience. We have 3 phases of mind, is the way we understand it in unity metaphysics: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind. So the conscious mind is where we're in our regular thinking of all the things that run through our mind, what we're aware of, right? The subconscious is there something? Oh, okay. So, just checking. So the subconscious is the storehouse of our memories and experiences, and there's the superconscious, which is our Christ consciousness, our divine nature, that broader, fuller aspect of self, right? So there are the 3 phases, and so Spirit, when we're praying, we're in the spirit of prayer, we're coming from Spirit, is when we're coming into that superconscious mind. And so we recognize that there are these 3 phases of mind, and recognizing that they're all available to us, that the superconscious mind is always present. We don't have to kind of reach out for it or beg for it, that it is our true nature. And so this is getting into the spirit of opening up to our true mind. And then and in order to do that, we've got to let go of some of the things in our subconscious and conscious that are just simply blocks or limited thinking, or just getting in the way of the good that is already present, right? Eric Butterworth said, we must work to alter the concept of God as the answer man, the super doctor, the divine warehouse, and the concept of prayer as the great spiritual slot machine. But it's like, come on, I'm gonna be a winner. So he says, remember, God is spirit, and they that worship must worship in spirit and in truth. So we're moving beyond the asking, God, please, anything helps. Asking to the knowing, to realization thinking. Unity author Sue Sicking said, true prayer is not asking for things, even the best things. Prayer is the lifting of the consciousness to the place where these things are. Where these things are. So the difference between, God, please heal this condition that I have. I've been suffering, and I'll go to church. I'll do the negotiating, different ways that we can tend to pray in separation, right? Then to coming into the fullness of the realization of I am health, I am whole, realizing it, feeling it. Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, said, you gotta feel after God. It's not just up in your head in the intellect. It's coming into the heart. It's coming into the feeling nature. Really coming into the realization of what it is that you're not experiencing, that you're exercising the practice of prayer to come into the realization of peace, wholeness, health, harmony, abundance, whatever that is in your consciousness. So, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, prayer is the contemplation of facts from the highest point of view. So in Unity, we say, holding the high watch for you, because I'm considering your situation, and I'm holding it in the highest and best possibility of an outcome of God expressing and experiencing in and through that. So we can pray where we're stuck in the facts, right? You're stuck in the options that a doctor gives you, or a lawyer gives you, or your family gives you, or your experiences give you, it could be this, and then you open up to, what knowing prosperity and abundance, or knowing health, or knowing harmony. And when you know it at the level of spirit, there's such a fuller experience of that, where you can hold it, spirit can hold it all. So going beyond trying to think it out as your prayer, and opening up to the bigger awareness, the bigger nature of God that you're one with. So prayer is really praying from the consciousness of divine mind. It's not, Michael was saying that it might have been Ernest Holmes that said it's not so much important who you're praying to or what you're praying for, but where you're praying from. Where you're praying from. Are you praying from the Spirit, from the awareness of your oneness? Are you praying from lack, limitation? Anything helps. So how do we do this? How do we shift our prayer from limited approaches to prayer into this way that Jesus is teaching us, and that Eric Butterworth is pointing out, is how we discover the power within us and express that power. So he gives us this from Jesus, Matthew 6:6. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So, not necessarily saying, just don't tell anybody. That's not, we're just talking about the secret here, that it's, and going within your own consciousness. So closing the door, closing out all that other crazy making thinking, going into the silence, the sweet, sweet silence of spirit, and communing with the Father. Charles Fillmore always interpreted the Father as the Christ within, the Christ consciousness, that the oneness, the divine that we are. Coming into that awareness of oneness, and that God will reward you in secret. In secret meaning in your consciousness, in your own consciousness, will be flooded with answers to your questions, with guidance, with peace, with that realization of all that you are, so much bigger than any problem or condition or situation in your life. That is the gift of prayer. And Eric Butterworth says the secret, being in secret, is when we have entered into the realm of causation, that all things are expressions of divine ideas. So we're always operating out of divine ideas, expressing, but so often we think and express these ideas at a low level of expression, right? But they're always being expressed, right? Love is always being expressed. Harmony, peace, abundance, right? But it could be low level of vibration. So getting into first cause, where creation happens at the level of being, at the level of divine mind, opening up to that and creating from that larger awareness, that bigger possibility for your life and for yourself. Eric Butterworth says, no miracle is needed to bring health or guidance or prosperity into our frustrated lives, because they are the very nature of God and the plan for his ideal creation, man. And that is the great secret. Great secret. That health, guidance, prosperity is God's will for us, is the plan for our lives, to experience that and to express that's when we open up to the nature of God, who we are, the power within us, that's what we realize and express. So God rewards you, Eric Butterworth says, in answers without ceasing. He says, until you get on the side of the law of causation, you have your reward in a more superficial fulfillment that is not really satisfactory. So you may get the thing, right? You may get the job or the car or the house, whatever it is, the thing, but you didn't get the consciousness, like giving a man a fish or teaching him how to fish. Now he has the consciousness of prosperity and a skill and an awareness of how to keep creating and manifesting that. You get in the consciousness of prosperity. Prosperity is your experience of life, rather than somebody, you get $1, oh, I'm prosperous. You spend the $1, I'm not prosperous. And you're like, wait, where's that consciousness go? The consciousness was based in a piece of paper. So coming into that greater, more fuller awareness. In the Revealing Word, it says prayer is communion between God and man, and this is the part I really like. This communion takes place in the innermost part of man's being, okay, in secret, right? Close the door within. It is the only way to cleanse and perfect the consciousness and thus permanently heal the body. That part was powerful. It's like, wow, permanently healing. It's talking about healing versus a cure. Permanently shifting your consciousness into that awareness of the allness, of the fullness, of the health, the prosperity, the harmony, the peace, all of that permanent healing. I just love that promise that is given to us when we continue that practice, like the monk who says, I never leave my place of meditation. So how this helped me, prayer has helped me in so many wonderful ways of being able to do things like being a minister that the little small me would say, who are you thinking you could do that? Speaking up in front of people or teaching that class or being in that position, whatever, but the Spirit of God says, yes, that is who I am. That is what I do. That is the power within me. I'm a person of power. I have amazing gifts to give in the world. So I open up to Spirit. So I recognize when I've taken that binge off in my thinking into the smallness, right? Get back into alignment with truth. So it's taught me how to do that. It's a practice that I keep. I'm looking for that permanent healing, so I'm going to keep it up. The all-sufficiency of God, knowing all my needs are met. I know that when I go into prayer. Coming into that guidance, that for every question there's an answer. There's always an answer in the divine. I found this. It's not in Discover the Power Within You. It's a chapter in Teach Us to Pray by Charles and Cora Fillmore that was called Joyous Prayer. And that's the spirit of prayer, getting into the joy of it. It's fun, it's joyful, it's shifting our vibration to a higher rate. He says, or they both say, would you feed the soul on the joys of the scientific Christian? So they used the word scientific back then in classic unity literature, meaning that there was a proven method. They said, prayer is scientific, spiritual practice is scientific, that if you practice this, you will get a consistent result of a shift in consciousness and awareness of truth. They said, would you feed the soul on the joys of the scientific Christian? If you would, you must realize them and give thanks in prayer for the more abundant life. Giving thanks for the more abundant life is already here. Then you will find that a great subconscious well of living water will begin to bubble up in your soul, and you will come to know that hitherto you have been living in the shallows of life instead of in its mighty depths. I love that. I'm I don't want to live in the shallows anymore. I want to live in the mighty depths. You will be blessed with a knowledge of the unity of all things, and a great peace and harmony will well up within you. So that's the promise of this practice, finding the joy within instead of looking for it out in the circumstances of life, which will be limited in its fulfillment. The true fulfillment is that of spirit. So my offering for you to practice this week in applying these teachings is that when we get a prayer request, what a prayer chaplain, a prayer associate minister will do is that they listen for the need. What is the need in the prayer request? So somebody may say, please pray that this turns out this certain way. Oh, the need is healing, or the need is prosperity. What is the truth principle, the divine idea? So my optional assignment for you, I encourage you because it's easy, is to open up to, what is my prayer need? What is the need underneath the physical, tangible object or experience that I'm looking to have in my life? So what is the aspect of God I need to remember? Is it light, love, health, wholeness, order, harmony? And then add your I am to it. I am is the name, is your spiritual name, is the name for the Christ that you are. So when you say I am, and then what is the truth that you need to know? Health, I am abundance, I am harmony. And to know that and work with that in your time of meditation and allow that to shift your thinking and open up into a broader awareness of who and what you are, and it will continue to feed you. Closing with the revealing words saying, prayer is the most highly accelerated mind action known. It steps up mental action until man's consciousness synchronizes with the Christ mind. It is the language of spirituality. When developed, it makes man master in the realm of creative ideas. So I encourage you to get into the spirit of prayer and to know that as you realize this truth in your mind and heart, that you will be the master of the creative ideas and you will discover the power within you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.